Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
The Iran war heats up again. New York unions blast Democratic Socialists, Chinese companies hacking AI, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. After a weekend of fresh strikes, the United States and Iran have agreed to stand down and meet Tuesday in Doha, Qatar. Vessels can again move freely through the Strait of Hormuz after tensions escalated due to a series of strikes tied to Iran and its regional allies. The latest sequence began Thursday when Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps violated the interim ceasefire agreement by using drones against ships in the Strait of Hormuz, including hitting a Singapore-flagged container ship. President Trump warned on social media Friday that the United States may no longer be able to be reasonable, saying it could be forced to militarily complete the job it had started. He added that if that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist. Hours later, U.S. Central Command said American forces struck Iranian missile and drone storage sites, along with coastal radar locations. On Saturday, Iran hit a tanker, damaging its bridge. Britain's Maritime Security Agency said all crew members were safe. Iran also launched missiles and drones at U.S. military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain over the weekend. Bahrain, home to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, condemned the strikes as a violation of its sovereignty. Meanwhile, Israel said Sunday it struck Iran-backed Hezbollah militants in Lebanon on Saturday, one day after Israel and Lebanon agreed to a new ceasefire framework. Iran-backed Hezbollah was not party to the deal. Ukraine launched one of its largest drone assaults of the war, with Russia's defense ministry claiming 660 drones targeted at least 12 regions, including Moscow and occupied Crimea. Ukrainian forces also struck 2 military vessels and air defense systems in Crimea's Kerch region, where authorities declared a state of emergency and halted all civilian fuel sales. The barrage followed President Zelensky's announcement of a 40-day influence operation aimed at compelling Russia to end the war. Ukraine has already launched more than 3,000 long-range drones into Russia this year, compared to 110 in all of 2024. Local and international rescue teams raced against the clock to pull survivors from the rubble in Venezuela on Sunday, 4 days after 2 powerful earthquakes shook the northern state of La Guaira. The government reported 1,450 dead from the quake Sunday afternoon, as it faced growing criticism from Venezuelans that its response was inadequate and overshadowed by civilian-led efforts to rescue people buried under collapsed buildings. Thousands more have been reported missing. Even as the likelihood of finding people alive diminished with each passing hour, rescuers continued to free some survivors from mountains of debris, offering anguished families a sliver of hope. The first 48 to 72 hours after a natural disaster are crucial to rescue efforts, though survival can be extended if people have access to food and water. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the state of Hawaii, granting concealed carry holders a huge victory in the blue state in a 6-3 decision Thursday. The Supreme Court sided with the plaintiff in Wolford versus Lopez, who contested Hawaii's state law requiring a property owner's explicit permission to allow lawful gun owners to bring firearms into public businesses. Hawaii's law at issue here violates the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, Justice Samuel Alito wrote. This regime hobbles what the Second Amendment protects: the right of Americans to carry arms for self-defense as they go about their daily lives. The Supreme Court also handed the Trump administration two wins on immigration. One allows the White House to end legal protections for Haitian and Syrian migrants who are in the U.S. for humanitarian reasons, while the other permits the administration to turn people away at the border before they can apply for asylum. Leaders of a prominent New York City union slammed the Democratic Party and Democratic Socialists of America for being out of touch with blue-collar members of the working class, the very people they ran their campaigns on supporting. I think they're communists, and I don't think they have the benefit of the working class, the real working class that taxpayers support. Robert Bartels Jr., the business manager of Steamfitters Local 638 in New York City, stated, ripping into the far-left DSA candidates who won primary elections in New York last week against incumbent and establishment Democrats. He says much of the DSA's work isn't aligned with labor, particularly people in the building trades. President Trump on Friday threatened to impose a 100% tariff on any country that implements a digital services tax on American technology companies. He pointed to Europe, where he said countries have been discussing the imminent implementation or are close to actually putting such taxes in place. Digital service taxes are fees levied on tech firms by countries where their products are used. Please let this statement serve to represent that any country that imposes such a tax will immediately be met with a 100% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social. The tariff will supersede trade deals made with the country, whether implemented, signed, or not, he continued. Additionally, the 100% tariff will be immediately imposed if they proceed. New U.S. economic data released Thursday showed stronger first quarter growth. The Bureau of Economic Analysis released its final estimate for first quarter gross domestic product. Real GDP grew at a 2.1% annual rate from January through March. The prior estimate was 1.6%. Fourth quarter 2025 growth was 0.5%. The agency said first quarter growth reflected increases in investment, exports, government spending, and consumer spending. Imports also increased and were subtracted from the GDP calculation. The next second quarter GDP estimate is scheduled for July 30th. Anthropic accused Alibaba of Claude malfeasance. In a letter sent to U.S. officials, Claude maker Anthropic alleged that the Chinese tech company brazenly and illicitly accessed the AI model in an attempt to extract its capabilities. Anthropic called it the largest known distillation attack to date. Distillation refers to training a less advanced model on a smarter one. Like most U.S. AI companies with consumer chatbots, Anthropic restricts access to Claude in China for national security and regulatory reasons. The news comes as Anthropic tries to patch up its rocky relationship with the federal government. Comcast said Monday it plans to separate its media and technology businesses into two publicly traded companies as it looks to better compete in a media landscape increasingly characterized by pressure from streaming rivals and consolidation. The separation, which will happen via a tax-free spin-off of NBCUniversal and Sky, is expected to be completed in about 1 year, and Comcast shareholders will own shares in both Comcast and NBCUniversal, the company said in a statement. That's the Raw Naked Truth for June 29th, 2026. Remember to like and subscribe to the Raw Naked Truth wherever you listen to podcasts. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.